What's going on, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, and the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer has finally dropped, and it was so much more than I expected it to be. It was super long for a teaser trailer, and it was so revealing. They revealed so much about this movie, and they confirmed the Spider-Verse. We literally saw Green Goblin's pumpkin bombs, Doc Ock himself, a blast from Electro, and Doctor Strange talked about how we know basically nothing about the multiverse. Now, I'm going to be breaking this trailer down for weeks now. There's so much we have to talk about in this trailer, but let's break this down, the teaser trailer, right away, right now. Real quick, thank you to everybody for following me on Instagram, for following me on Twitter, and being up to date with me as this happened. It was quite an experience, and if you're new, consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. Now, like I said, the biggest thing that this trailer did is confirm the Spider-Verse in this film. No, the other two Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, were not in this, but if you've been following my videos, you know that I've stated that they're not going to be in the first trailer, but I've heard that they're going to be in the very last trailer right before the movie comes out. But if you were doubting the Spider-Verse being a thing in Spider-Man No Way Home, all the doubts should be gone now, as we've seen Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, Electro, and if you paid close enough attention, you saw a Green Goblin pumpkin bomb, and Green Goblin has been rumored and reported to be the main villain of this movie, and it looks like we just got a pretty big confirmation for that in this teaser trailer. And it looks like we've actually been reporting on some pretty accurate details about Spider-Man No Way Home. And of course, I'll be doing plenty of Spider-Man videos this week, but let's dive into the trailer breakdown. So the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer pretty much picks off exactly where we left off at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. Now we start with a little comedic relief. Everybody knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man now, and some newspapers are having some fun in some articles speculating on what some powers Spider-Man might actually have. And one of them said that it suggested that Peter Parker's powers include the male Spider's ability to hypnotize females. Obviously, this is a joke, and it's his girlfriend reading it to him, but surprisingly, the newspaper that she's reading isn't the Daily Bugle. Now, right now, it's the dailybugle.net. That's what we've seen. So perhaps it's not an actual physical newspaper, at least in this universe. Now, on the cover of the newspaper, we can actually see it says Spider Minions, and right above it, it says Peter Parker and H. MJ's finger is blocking the rest, but I'm going to go ahead and say this is Peter Parker and Happy. Happy helped him a great deal in Spider-Man Far From Home, and since the newspaper says Spider Minions, I'm going to assume the H is the beginning of Happy. So it looks like Happy's in a little bit of trouble as well, which Spider-Man alludes to just a little bit in the trailer where he says it's not just about him, it's about the people that he loves taking fire for this as well. Now from here, they do a little recap of the ending of Far From Home, and they do a pretty good job at refreshing your mind of what exactly happened. Mysterio framed Peter Parker and said that he killed him, and it was actually him that was doing the attacks. And then of course he revealed Spider-Man's identity as Peter Parker. And he did this by sending a very convincing video to the Daily Bugle. And the trailer picks up right where that left off, in the middle of all this chaos. We see MJ and Peter swinging from a web, which is no doubt right after the Spider-Man Far From Home post-credit scene takes place, where Spider-Man says, "What the F?" As Spider-Man swings by, we see the Daily Bugle playing on the screens in the background, and we can see that they've marked Spider-Man public enemy number 1 in true Daily Bugle fashion, like they have done over and over and over again. We then cut to Peter being interrogated about the death of Mysterio, in which he claims that he didn't kill him, the drones did, in which we know, but nobody else does. The agent that's interrogating him says the drones were yours, because remember, Peter gave Mysterio his glasses. So everybody thinks they're Peter's and not Mysterio's. But then we see somebody else. This person is not a cop, they're not a detective. They have their jacket off, sleeves rolled up, and they slam a bunch of files on the table in front of Peter as he is also reading some files, which leads us to believe that this is his lawyer. Of course, he's entitled to a lawyer to try and prove himself not guilty, and this teaser definitely, very intentionally, does not show the lawyer's face, and I believe it is because this person right here is Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. It's been reported and rumored for a very, very long time that he is going to be Peter Parker's lawyer in No Way Home. Now, all of the reports state that he isn't going to suit up as Daredevil. He is simply going to be Peter Parker's lawyer. However, that's enough for me, as this would set him up and make him exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, from here we see a little bit of what Peter is dealing with. He is definitely public enemy number one as he walks to the courthouse or wherever he is going. We can see everybody behind the barricades yelling at him. They believe that he did kill Mysterio and they hate him now. One person even has a sign of him that says Devil in Disguise with painted horns on it. And yes, I do know what you're thinking. I am thinking it too, and we know for sure Peter Parker is Mephisto confirmed. Yeah, let's go down that route again. So obviously it's pretty rough for Peter right now, but Zendaya tries to shed a little bit of light on the situation. She says, "Aren't you a little relieved now? You don't have to hide or lie anymore." And while she says this, we actually see her and Peter holding hands as they walk to the courthouse. Ned is behind them, so his friends and his girlfriend are right beside him during this hard time. Now, these next sequence of events are rather interesting because we can see MJ and Peter on top of a large building. Now, I'm not sure if they actually get caught here. They might swing away from it, because in the upcoming scene we see that Peter and Aunt May are sitting on the couch and the cops show up. We can see the lights in the background. So this might be when he actually gets caught and taken to jail. We also see Peter walking in school, and of course everybody is video recording him. So it's really hard to tell the sequence of these events. The cops may let him go until he goes to court to try and prove that he's innocent, if they're going to go by innocent until proven guilty, maybe put him on parole or something, but either way he ends up back at school and not in jail. But we can see how hard it is for Aunt May and his friends. They're all being interrogated, and we can just see how bad Peter's life is right now. So he looks for a solution. And this is where he sees some Halloween decorations of what looks to be like a male witch or wizard of some sort. If this is a decoration of Doctor Strange, it's very poorly done, but he's got the goatee and everything, so it could be. So Peter heads to the New York Sanctum to see Doctor Strange. And it makes sense because he is the master of the mystic arts, and Peter knows him because he ran into him in Infinity War, and then of course at the end of Endgame. And he's in New York, which is very convenient. And here we basically get the One More Day storyline from the Spider-Man comics, which is very interesting, and I'll talk about that in just a bit. Well, it's actually really the One Moment in Time storyline, but the ending of the One More Day storyline. So, Peter shows up to the Sanctum and Strange lets him in which he says, "What do I owe the pleasure?" And Peter actually calls him Sir, even though they've been through a lot, and Doctor Strange is quickly there to remind him what exactly they've been through, saving the universe. And since they went through that together, Doctor Strange says, "We're well past you calling me Sir." However, Doctor Strange is still a doctor, and he's much older than Peter, so when Peter calls him Steven, it is rather weird, but we have a good comedic moment here of Doctor Strange saying, "I'll allow it." And side note, it's snowing in the Sanctum. The context of why it's snowing in the Sanctum is definitely a mystery. But we can see that Doctor Strange has a lot of clothes on. He has a hoodie on, he has a jacket over that, and we can actually see his cloak is over everything. Which makes sense because if he needs to fly or levitate, he couldn't do that if the coat was under everything. Now again, it's unclear of why it's snowing in here, but it kind of reminds me of Harry Potter. One when a spell goes wrong and the office keeps raining, and the other where Ron gets nervous and he makes it snow. So this could be the product of a spell gone wrong here. So Peter goes to Strange and he pleads his case. Ever since Mysterio revealed his identity, his entire life got screwed up, so he went to Strange in hopes that he could change that, perhaps make everybody forget it, or make it to where the events never happened. And while he's saying this, we actually get a look at Peter's new black and gold suit, and it looks freaking fantastic. If you blink, you'll miss it, but if you slow it down or freeze frame it, you can definitely see his new suit. So this scene is definitely after Doctor Strange does his spell. And from what we've learned about this suit is it's actually going to be enchanted by Doctor Strange's magic and give Peter the ability to use magic with his suit. Now we do get one shot of Doctor Strange levitating in the air, seemingly concentrating on something. And if you notice, this room looks like it's been destroyed. I originally thought that this could have been perhaps some of the villains from the other multiverses coming to the Sanctum and perhaps they had a big battle here, but if you take a look at the scene where Doctor Strange actually does the spell, we can see that it is already in ruins. But hopefully we'll find out what actually happened here in the film, because it does seem like a big fight did happen. Now, during a close-up of him, we actually see that he has the Eye of Agamotto still around his neck. But remember, the Time Stone was destroyed in our main timeline, and the Time Stone that they got from the past, Captain America returned. So unless Unless Doctor Strange somehow figured out a way to reforge the time stone, I don't think it's in there. However, this is clearly a multiverse and Spider-Verse movie, so him getting a different time stone is definitely a possibility. Now, ultimately, Doctor Strange does tell Peter that yes, there is a spell that he can do to make everybody forget that Peter Parker himself is Spider-Man. However, Wong is there to quickly remind him that it's a very dangerous spell, and he tells him not to cast the spell, in which Strange seemingly agrees to not cast, but it looks like as soon as Wong's gone, he does it anyways, giving our Peter Parker a little wink. Now, from here, we have an extremely cool scene because it's actually pretty much almost exactly taken from the comics. From the ending of the One More Day and from the One Moment in Time storyline from Amazing Spider-Man number 638 to 641. However, it is slightly different, and I'll explain how. As Strange starts the spell, he says, "Our world is about to forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man." But Peter starts to freak out because he thinks that MJ and Ned and Aunt May, they should still know that he's Spider-Man, and they should still know about all the events that led up to this current event. However, Doctor Strange simply states that that's not how the spell works, and this is pretty close to what happened in the comics. However, in the comics, it wasn't just Doctor Strange doing the work, it was actually Doctor Strange, Tony Stark, and Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four. Doctor Strange and Reed Richards had done this procedure before to erase the memory of the Century from the world, and they added Tony Stark into the mix because Extremis would allow him to better control the process, since it was an extremely risky procedure. And just to add to the danger factor that Wong was speaking about, this procedure is extremely dangerous not only for Peter Parker, but in the comics it was extremely dangerous for Tony Stark, Reed Richards, and Doctor Strange. In fact, right before, Reed Richards warns Tony and he says, "This is serious business, Tony. You could suffer severe complications and possible damage to your brain. We're mixing science and the arcane here in violent and dangerous ways we never dreamed of before, and we don't know what Extremis is completely capable of." But Tony agrees to accept the risk, and Doctor Strange begins. And it looks like this comic scene is pretty dang close to what we see in the trailer. Strange starts and says, "I have created a protective cell that will shield you from what is about to happen. Enter it and remember, from this moment on, you will be the sole guardian of mistakes that never transpired. Remember and learn from them. When the storm dissipates, I will be incapacitated. Leave immediately, lest you want me to wonder why you're here. Now, move quickly. It has begun." So in the comics, the story is pretty much the same. Nobody is going to remember that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, not even Doctor Strange himself who was casting the spell. However, in the comics, Peter Parker can't imagine a life without MJ, so he actually brings her into the protective field as well. And in the comics and the previous stories, we've learned that anybody that he essentially reminds his identity to remembers everything that they'd forgotten. So hopefully that's kind of the case here in the MCU. If he tells his Aunt May, if he tells Ned, if he tells MJ, hopefully they remember. And considering the fact that we've had photos of MJ, Ned, and Peter Parker together, hopefully that is actually after these events transpire and they actually do remember him, because that would be really sad if they didn't. Now, in the trailer, Peter Parker, as Doctor Strange is doing the spell, asks, "Can't some people still know?" And Doctor Strange says, "That's not how the spell works." Peter says, "MJ is going to forget about everything that we've been through," but Doctor Strange says something that I think is going to be rather important. He says, "Stop tampering with the spell." Peter continues to plead his case for Aunt May and Ned, in which Doctor Strange yells, "Stop talking." Then the spell is complete. Now, I believe that these words are very important. Stop tampering with the spell, and Doctor Strange telling Peter essentially to shut up. I think the spell definitely did not go as according to plan, especially since Wong kind of warned Doctor Strange about it being so dangerous. It just kind of seems like it's set up to not really go according to plan here. Now from here is really where the plot is revealed. Doctor Strange says, "We tampered with the stability of space-time. The multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little." And from here we kind of see some parallels to the very first Doctor Strange, where he kind of went through the multiverse himself. So one thing that is apparent here is that Wong was right, the spell was too dangerous. Doctor Strange did the spell to make everybody forget that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and now their reality and the multiverse has been severely affected. And that's what this movie is really going to be about. Universes colliding, the multiverse multiverse exploding into madness, because this film will lead into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now from here we see a little bit of conflict between Doctor Strange and Peter. We see them on a train and it kind of looks like they're fighting each other, and it was rumored that the first teaser trailer would have a scene where Doctor Strange and Peter fight on a train. The rumor is that they don't see eye to eye on some things, and the rumor for what those things apparently are is whether or not to send all these multiversal villains back to their own universes in which they will die. Strange wants to, but Peter doesn't. Now in this scene, I think it's really just Doctor Strange showing exactly how powerful he is and pretty much showing Peter, look, you don't stand a chance against me. But ultimately they are going to work together. Now here are a few very important scenes. We get a scene where Doctor Strange says, "A problem is you trying to live two different lives." Now the trailer would lead us to believe that this is a problem for the multiverse. However, I think this is a little bit of a misdirect. I think this is pretty much Doctor Strange telling Peter, look, you have to choose. Do you want to be Peter Parker, high school kid, or do you want to be Spider-Man, an Avenger? Because the longer you do it, the more dangerous it becomes. Meaning, Spider-Man, with all the villains that he's going to have, is always going to put his friends and family at risk. And in this scene, we actually see Happy getting stormed by a SWAT team. Obviously due to his association with Peter Parker, and they're probably up to something during the film in which Happy is trying to help him, but gets trapped. Now there is one very important scene that we see here that's really quick. Doctor Strange knocks Peter's soul out of his body. This is exactly what happened to him in the first Doctor Strange when the Ancient One did this to him. And this is probably the big multiversal world shifting scene that we saw just before this. Peter experiencing the multiverse just like Doctor Strange did. However, what's very interesting here is what's on Peter's hand. His left hand, there's a green cube-like object on it. Now this is very interesting because there was a leak that said that there was going to be an object that was going to be key to kind of keeping our universe together, keeping the universe that Doctor Strange and Spider-Man exist in together. And this very well could be that object that was talked about in a plot leak. The plot leak did say it was a small cubed object. And regardless of whatever it is, this object right here is going to be extremely important. Now, from here on out is what I would call one of the most exciting moments in Marvel history, in superhero history, in cinema history. Marvel shows us the Spider-Verse, the multiverse that now exists in the MCU, colliding into one universe. And we see what seems to be 5 different villains that Peter Parker is going to have to go up against. This is pretty much going to be the Sinister Six, except they probably won't call it that, but that's what it is. So whoever that last villain is, we're waiting to find out. It could indeed be Mysterio if he is still alive. In a blink and you'll miss it moment, we see Peter and something open up behind him. We hear a roar, he turns around quickly and something reaches its arm out. This is Lizard. The roar and the hand reaching kind of give it away. It's so quick and hard to make out, but I truly do believe that it is Lizard. Then from here we see lightning and a sandstorm. This is going to be Jamie Foxx's Electro from the Amazing Spider-Man universe, and Sandman we presume is going to be from the Sam Raimi universe. And in this scene, if you take a look at Spider-Man in the trees, he is wearing his black and gold suit. And from here, this next scene is just the top of the top, the creme de la creme. The best scene to me is where we see Green Goblin's pumpkin bomb, and we hear his menacing laugh in the background. This is going to be Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, the very first Spider-Man film with Tobey Maguire. He is back, and then we hear Doctor Strange say, "Be careful what you wish for, Parker," and then we see the tentacles. And Alfred Molina's Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2 appears. And I gotta say, Marvel is actually getting pretty good at their de-aging CGI. And he gives us a classic, "Hello, Peter." And the last shot is Peter Parker suiting up in his nanotech iron spider suit. Now, it's said that the villains are going to be taken from their own universes right before their deaths. So if you're wondering, why do all of these villains want to kill our Peter Parker if he's different from their Peter Parker? Well, they're pretty bitter since the last thing that they remember is them dying. So this is why they all want to kill Spider-Man before Spider-Man kills them, despite whatever Spider-Man that is. Now, of course, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man are going to be showing up in this movie. I know they didn't show them, but I've been saying it for a while. My source told me they're not going to show them until pretty much the final trailer. But I do believe and have been told they are showing up. They're gonna show up and help Peter Parker fight these other villains from their universes. And hopefully we get that in the final trailer before the movie actually comes out. But this is the official teaser trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home, and I personally think that it was well worth the wait. This actually surpassed my expectations on what they were going to show us. I think they showed us way more than a lot of people were expecting. I loved it, I cried watching it, but please let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. And thank you to everybody who supported me during all the update videos I did. I really was trying to be as accurate as I could in telling you when the trailer was supposed to come out, and we got it tonight. Thank you all so much. If you love Marvel, consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the latest videos. For live updates, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.